Hi guys! Welcome back to Spilling the Tea Podcast, episode 9. This is Kiki,
Haylin,
and this is our special guest, Jasper!
Yeah.
Guys, we are back, and this time we have Jasper.
Jasper, you just got home when?
Last night.
How do you feel to be home?
I'm very excited.
And where are you coming from?
Vancouver, Canada.
For those that don't know, I'm sure you've seen Jasper in our Instagram and here and there, but Jasper is one of our top tier elite teens at Spility Cafe. We've literally, we have been in his journey since literally day one from Spility Cafe open. Or I would say you've been in our journey because it's been a roller coaster. But yeah, it's been so beautiful to see your whole transformation.
Do you want to share your story with our audience and the viewers? I mean, you definitely have a fan club already. But I know the cafe has a vibe when you come home. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to all the viewers out there, maybe other kids who might be on a journey as well, any advice you have for them or just maybe letting them know how your journey has been thus far.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. I wouldn't say my story is especially special. I think it's pretty common. I am a trans man. I've been transitioning socially for probably 4 years, medically for just over 2 years now. So I'm 20 years old. I got top surgery when I was 17, and I started testosterone when I was 18. I mean...
How about the beginning of the journey? Or when did you even know you were trans? Maybe because a lot of people have the misconception that you just know. And
Yeah,
it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah, I'm a funny case in that I never really came out as trans. There was never a moment where I sat my parents down and was like, I'm trans. I think my parents found out that I wanted top surgery because I was crying because my back hurt from binding so much. And I was like, I need this. And that's how they found out.
Would you mind telling, for those that don't know, what does binder mean?
Yeah, basically for AFAB, assigned female at birth bodies, you have breast tissue. And for people that are transmasculine, trans men like myself, that can be very distressing having a chest. And so binding is basically just backing them down, making it look like you have a flat chest.
And for those kiddos that would like to do binding, or even adults, because there are still some trans males that haven't fully transitioned, what are some things they can use to do that?
You can get binders online.
Okay.
I use GC2B. There's a bunch more now. When I came out, there were, I think, 3 brands that did them. I only ever used GC2B. Some people, they can use tape. I was not lucky enough to be able to do that. But there's a lot of different ways you can bind. There are a lot of healthy ways you can bind.
Okay, wow. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
How was that conversation with your parents?
It was weird. I think everybody in my life knew that I was going to turn out some kind of trans. The closet was made of glass. Everyone knew it. I think people knew before I did. And I don't remember this, but according to a friend of mine, when I was a child, I asked her what it was like to be a girl. And I was like, what's that like? And she was like, I don't know. But I always was pretty masculine. And so it was just kind of a matter of time. I think when I finally told people, they were like, okay, finally. Everyone kind of knew. And so I get a lot of questions. I'm like, are you trans? A lot of people assumed I was trans even before I accepted it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and I think that's a lot of people's story as well. How do you overcome those types of challenges, the internal conflict or the internal, what is that journey, or what was that journey like for you?
It was tricky. I think my introduction to the trans thing was an understanding that being trans was associated with hating yourself and hating your body. And so there was a lot of fear that I didn't hate myself enough to really be trans, or that just that I wasn't trans in the right way, or I wasn't trans enough. And so that sort of hindered my progress in accepting who I was. At the same time, I was also dealing with a lot of bullying at school. And so I was like, I'm not trying to make things worse for myself. Like, being gay is bad enough at school.
Right.
If I'm trans, like, I don't know how much worse things are gonna get. So, I mean, some of it was safety, and then some of it was just like being obtuse about my own identity.
Yeah, I think everyone has their own individual journey, like you talked, and that's what I've learned, you know, in terms of working with all types of different kids, that there's so many assumptions that we, I guess, uneducated cisgender people just make, right? And I do blame like society and just like the lack of knowledge. But how do you, I guess, come to that place, Jasper, of accepting yourself and, or making that decision to make a change and like take care of yourself or take care of your mental health? Because that story of bullying is not uncommon, right? And how do
That's
you...
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yes.
You see this so much at Spill the Tea. You know,
Yes.
we have kids that come crying like, oh, like even at home, like my parents are bullying me at home.
No,
you know,
time.
my grandparents, my
Yeah.
teachers.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that really changed it, for me at least, was meeting trans kids that were younger than me. I think even once I was 18, once I was 17, 18, and 19 transitioning, there was still a lot of like internalized transphobia, in that I was like, I'm trans and I like hate myself for it in a way. But then at my school, they emailed me and they were like, hey, there's a kid that's like younger than you who's going through basically the exact same thing that you went through in middle school, because the staff knew about it because I did faculty training about like DEI stuff.
Wow.
You did it as a student?
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And that's another thing we should
Wow,
talk about.
I'm just
because
learning about this.
Yeah.
We actually hear a lot of that where like the teachers depend on the students to help other students.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean you're fully equipped to, like help other kids in that situation.
Yeah. But then I was like, it became less about trying to love myself and more like preventative care, where I was like, I don't want anyone else to have to deal with what I dealt with. And so by proxy, if they see someone that's older than them, that looks like them, and they see that person hating themselves, that sends a message that that's all they're going to be able to become. And I didn't want to contribute to that. I was like, I need people to see that like a happy trans future is possible. Like, trans adults exist. Like, you can survive being a trans kid.
Yes. And it's really hard because, I mean, I'm sure everyone has seen what's going on in the mainland and just even in other countries. Like, the transphobia is real.
Or even how in this country too, right? Like
Yeah.
in the US, it's ridiculous.
But
right now.
even though sometimes we're like, oh my God, the US is so progressive. That's
Yeah.
some BS. I still feel like we're living in the 1930s, but we're not gonna go in there. But all that to say that, you know, this happens like within your families, you know, your cousins, your aunties. Like, there's just that lack of awareness, you know, and respect.
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't. It's not that hard. All you have to do is fucking show up and support your family member. Like,
Yeah.
Or at least put your differences aside to show up for your family member.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of kids don't have that, and that's what makes it extra special. Like when Jasper talks about like finding that inspiration from younger kids, or trying to, I guess, be part of something bigger than yourself, like trying to change the narrative for trans kids. It's so true. Like when you think about it, do you see a lot of like really happy, well-adjusted, successful trans adults? Like not so much, right?
No.
And you actually becoming that possibility model, I think just in itself, just existing, right, is already a big statement and a lot of hope for other kids. So that's why I just love Jasper so much. You've done so much for the cafe. And I guess in terms of mental health, what do you think we could do to make sure that this industry, right? Because you guys have the answers. I don't want to just rely on like old white dead men to dictate what we do in mental health delivery. But in terms of the unique challenges that trans kids face or the LGBT community faces, right? What do you think? And again, don't give me like a million things, okay? Just like a few things we can work on, Jasper, of how we can either right some wrongs or start doing this in a better way.
I think, oh gosh.
So much.
I know.
he's like, I do have a million.
In one aspect, I think there's a really strong desire to make trans and like transitioning more medicalized and make it about I have a gender dysphoria diagnosis, therefore I'm like really trans and I deserve to transition, or I transition, therefore I am like a real man, or I'm really trans and like I have the top surgery scars to prove it. And there's a lot of, I think when we continue that, it sends the message that being trans is something that needs to be like treated. And that makes it seem more like like a pathogen than like an identity, where you're like, oh, something, even calling, just like even the fact that in the ICD is gender identity disorder.
I know, right?
Like,
like, why is that still in there?
So fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, the DSM-3, like even being gay was a disorder
What?
back then.
Yeah.
So we're just continuing to
It's a
evolve and
paraphilia.
be educated, you know? Back then, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Damn.
But even just like small things, like when I got top surgery, you have to get insurance approval. And to do that, I needed physicians to diagnose me with a mental illness.
I was gonna ask you, what was that process of like, you know, reaching out to your doctor? Because if I understand properly, you didn't do it here in the islands, right? You had to
No.
leave the islands, you had to leave the state, right?
Yeah.
What was that process?
Yeah.
For top surgery, it was interesting because I was a minor when there was like, in a very dark sense, there was no way I was going to make it to an adult if I didn't get top surgery as a minor. To the point that like, there were moments that I, to myself, like in front of my mirror, confessed like, if I'm not gonna graduate and walk across the stage at my high school graduation with a flat chest, then I'm not going to at all. Where it was like,
Wow.
that was, the options were get top surgery or die as a teenager. And so it was kind of like an emergent situation when it finally came to a head. And the whole process from admitting to my parents that I needed top surgery to getting top surgery was, I think, 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a long process.
Because I started talking to my doctors about it at 16 after I told my parents, and they were like, there was a brief time where it was just me and my parents talked about it, and then I brought it up with my doctors, and then from there it's, we need to find a surgeon. Oh, there's a surgeon on island. They won't take you as a minor. They won't take our insurance.
Right.
So let's find someone else. We found Gender Confirmation Center, who I love. They did a great
Shout out to
job.
you guys.
Shout out Gender Confirmation.
Dr. Fakeway did my top surgery. He's awesome. And then it was a lot of like, okay, now I have to go to this doctor. I have to get a gender dysphoria diagnosis. I need to go to this doctor. I tried to go to my general practitioner and say, hey, I need you to fill out this form that says that I'm fit for surgery and that I have gender dysphoria, so my insurance will cover it. She wasn't comfortable doing that. We had to find a different doctor.
Oh my gosh, Jasper.
Yeah. And so then there was a whole thing of like, it's going to be a little bit different because I got surgery before I went on hormones. And then we finally got the letters from my doctors, got that sent to the insurance team. And then from there, I was very lucky that insurance approved it the first go around.
Wow.
And then I was able to get surgery 3 months after I got approval.
And all of that happened in a span of 2 years?
Yes.
Wow, that is a long,
And that's a long time.
Yeah.
And so many like hoops, you know,
Yes.
and you know, probably all the tears and dark
Yeah.
nights
Yeah.
that you went through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would watch.
This is why the fucking healthcare is so
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about dysphoria, a lot of people don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start with, I agree with what Jasper is saying in terms of like, we have to use this deficit model. What that means is we have to say what's wrong with you, right? And a lot of times it's to prove the medical necessity so that the insurance will pay for it. So it is not this hard and fast answer, but at the same time, we should not be labeling things as a disorder if it's not.
Yeah.
And we're really just trying to prove, right? Like quote unquote, prove that this is impacting you so much to the point where you cannot live. I see that every day. Like kids not liking their body or feeling like they're in the wrong body or feeling like a certain part of their body or even sometimes the voice or sometimes a certain part of, like it's just so different for every kid. So it's hard to make those assumptions. But my point is that we're using this deficit model, right? And I think that that's wrong all across the board. And that's the first mistake of mental health, right? Is that we're looking at someone from what's wrong with you instead of this holistic approach. Yeah. Maybe you can explain what dysphoria means to you or what it looks like in kids.
For me, at least, I was dysphoric, especially with my chest, I had a very large chest for being a relatively small guy, to the point that it was very difficult to disguise, and my dysphoria drove me to do unhealthy things to my body that have done harm permanently. There are like health issues that I have now because of the way I was binding that I'm never gonna get rid of. And so it was just a lot of feeling wrong a lot. There's been more recently a switch to calling it like gender incongruence, because right now the DSM describes it as like distress. And for me it was distress, but a lot of times it isn't necessarily. It's just like, even if it's not, I don't like this, it can be, I would prefer if this was something else. Or like, I would be happier if this wasn't here. And that was, for me, that was like top surgery was like the big thing, was like, I need to get rid of my chest. And then once I got top surgery, my like chest dysphoria went away, and then all my other dysphoria got worse. And then I was like, now I need to be on testosterone.
Yeah, we're only laughing because, you know, we have this comedic relief. But it's true. Like, a lot of kids think that this will just be a magic pill. And, you know, a lot of times it does, I would say anecdotally anyway, like gets rid of like most of the dysphoria. But there's other things that come up. There's other issues and other, like, you might get on testosterone, but then now you have like more acne, or now you have like, you know, this emotional issue, right? So and I think that is the reason for the letters right now. Although I think we're trying to move away from it, from my understanding, because we shouldn't have to like determine whether or not, right? Yeah. Someone, I think that you should be able to determine what's best for your own body. We definitely believe in that, you know, autonomy. And so as a mental health therapist, we just are saying, hey, we want to be able to support you on your journey. And I think that's where the letter comes in. Yeah. So just to like dispute all these myths that we're just doing all kind of like mutilation to minors, that's just completely false. Yeah. And that's not happening at all, like in the country.
I've been having Facebook like fights, like
Chiquito.
Like 70 comments, you know, like me just like fighting with these boomers. Yeah. Not you. You're not a boomer.
I know, I'm a boomer.
Fighting with these boomers that are like, oh my God, like all of you guys are gonna go to hell. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I feel like if God was real, he might be. Yeah. But if he was real, I know that my God comes from a place of love, and he wouldn't care about you doing these things, because first, you're not harming yourself. Yeah. And second,
he made you that way.
He made you that way, but they're like, who are you to tell me that I cannot love, like, for example, if I was lesbian, like, oh no, you can't love another girl. Like, who are you to tell me who I can love? Yeah. You know what I mean? And imagine if I told you right now, like, oh, sir, you can't love Alex that way. Like, you just cannot. You know what I mean? Like, who are you? So if God is real and he's out there, I don't think that those people on Facebook.
Well, there's this myth that doctors are forcing children to transition, and that like adult queer people and trans people are forcing the identity on children.
Or drag queens.
And I'd like to
with the drag story.
I'd like to make the announcement that like the adults in my life writ large were not encouraging me to be trans. If anything, it was the opposite.
Absolutely.
Like nobody wanted me to be trans, including me. I knew what that meant for me socially and financially and like politically, and I was very much like, if there's a way I can not be trans, I would like that way, please. I don't want to have to do this if I don't need to.
Exactly, because you guys already are living such a hard life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if I could choose not to be trans, I would totally do that. You know what I mean? Yeah, so and I totally get it.
The same thing with like, I didn't manipulate any doctor into letting me transition as a minor. Like, I did not have final say at all in my ability to get top surgery as a 17-year-old, because it was like, I need my parents' approval, I need this doctor's approval, I need this doctor's approval. If everybody said yes and my parents said no, if any one person in the system said no, I wasn't getting top surgery. Right. I didn't go into an office and be like, give me top surgery or I'm gonna like do something dangerous. It's a big team effort, and like, if there is an adult that is not on board, you're not gonna transition. Nobody is forcing anybody to operate on kids.
And I get upset because I get those comments and those messages, right? And we are not here trying to force your cisgender children to become trans or gay or anything, right? What we're trying to do is keep our kids alive. Yeah. And I think from any mom to mom or parent to parent, at least, have that empathy to imagine, like, if your kid is truly going through this and they're consistent and persistent about it, and like, just have the open mind to think, maybe trans people really are real. Maybe they have been around since the beginning of time, and maybe my child is part of that population. Then what would you actually do? It's hard, and it's much harder than anyone ever can imagine. And not only you as a parent feeling like this is going to be such a hard life for your kid, but like exactly what Jasper said, trust me when I say these kids try everything to not be trans and not be in this community. And then once they get that courage to be themselves, that's when their journey, I think, starts. And we are so honored to be a part of that journey and be on that healing journey. Is there anything that you can tell the viewers about Spill the Tea Cafe, how it has helped you, and also how you might want to give back to other kids this summer?
Oh, it's great. I started coming to the cafe when I was at like a fairly dark time in life. I had like recently been discharged from a psych ward, and so I was like not the most stable.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I got discharged in like May, and then I graduated, and then I came to the cafe.
Literally like a month after we opened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just meeting other trans people is very important, having someone to commiserate with. And then I'm also leading a group this summer.
Yeah, breaking
Transcend
news.
group this summer, guys.
So come to that.
Saturdays at
1.
You can be with Jasper, and he'll be here from now all the way to August.
Yes.
We're so happy
you're
and
home.
excited you're back. You can feel the vibe in the cafe. I feel like all of the kiddos were like impatiently waiting
Like,
today
when
for
is
your
Jasper coming
arrival. They're like, I remember this one kiddo, they were like, 32 more days before Jasper comes. I'm like, damn, 20 more days, one more day, he's on flight. And now you're here with us. We're so honored, and it's so beautiful to, really be a part of your journey and see how much you've grown, but also how you continue to inspire other kiddos. And honestly, you inspire me too. You really inspire me to live authentically who I am and show up as a person that I am. And I just hope that not only you are inspiring younger kiddos, but those 30-year-olds, those 40-year-olds that are still not living authentically because they're scared of like, oh, what are my parents gonna say? What are my friends gonna say?
Society.
But then they go home and they're like sad, depressed, It's very unfortunate. So yeah, it's just, you're truly very inspiring.
Thank you.
Jasper, do you still kind of keep in touch? Like, does our kiddos at the cafe bother you at college?
Oh, all the time, every day.
Spill it, tea.
I get texts every day.
Oh my gosh, Jasper, well, thank you for doing that. That's definitely unpaid work.
Yeah, no, I have heard that there have been some kiddos that are like so sad in a crisis, and then they text you and then they're fine.
Wow, Jasper, tell us why you do that. We know you're busy at school. We know how how demanding your schedule is.
I love it. I love helping people. There's a reason I'm going to psychology, but period. I love it. And everything I can do to make sure nobody else has to go through what I went through is great. Like, I'm very proud of where I am, but I can't help but think about how much further I could be had I had like someone like me in my life. And so I'm just trying to be that for other people.
Wow, that's so beautiful. You're truly a ray of fucking sunshine.
Do you see this generation? I'm telling you guys, we're gonna be unstoppable.
No, you're really changing the narrative, and I think it is it can be very difficult to leave those struggles behind, and like do a 180 spin to help others, because it could be so easy to just stay focused on the dark spots or the dark moments, but you choose to let that behind so that you can best support others, and that's very selfless. That's something very selfless to do.
I also want to shout out your mama.
Oh, my mom's great.
Yeah,
shout out Jen. I see you at the Capitol with your sign.
Yes, and she really inspires me. We've connected just having sons who are trans, and I never knew anyone before Jen, and it just made a really big difference for me. And so, I know it's not about me. It's not about the parents. I know that. I also need to say that it's important for the parents to also have support to learn how to evolve and grow, right? And so the Tea Cafe is also a place for parents to learn how to best support their LGBT youth.
Yeah, I like to tell people, new families that come to spill the tea. Yes, we work with the youth. We have individual therapy, group therapy, but we also have family therapy. I mean, we can do all this work with this one kiddo, but if we're not working closely with the family, with the parents, with the guardian, then, collectively as a whole, it's not going to work out. So I highly encourage all those parents, if you feel lost, if you feel like you don't understand your child, if you need guidance or just someone that you can chit chat to, just reach out. We're here to help you. Our therapists are beyond capable to do these things. And if you are interested, you can just go to our website, spilltheteacafe.org.
I also want to end with just one thing. If Jasper wants to, does Jasper have any advice for the parents? Because I feel like it's so different when it comes from the kid.
I know. Yeah.
Do you have any? What if a parent is like so scared and unsure and really doesn't want their kid to be trans? Like, what would you tell that parent?
I think a lot of conflict comes from like not. I don't know how to say this. My mom and my relationship my relationship with my parents got so much better after I transitioned. Like, because I didn't hate myself, it was a lot easier to like appreciate what I had. And when you're in a place where you're like, my body sucks and everything sucks and I hate this.
Yeah.
When you're finally out of that, you're like, oh, things aren't so bad. And, I don't know. I guess just like, the statistics are so clear about like the influence of a supportive adult on a trans child or just any queer child at all. It's like 40% risk deduction in suicide, self-harm, substance abuse, sexual abuse, eating disorders, everything.
Just one supportive adult.
Yeah. And so, that can be life or death. And it's not, I wrote about this once. I was like, we don't need the world. We just need you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, make me cry. I know, it's so true.
Get the tissue.
Yeah.
No, that is so beautiful. And I hope that
Jasper,
parents out there
you.
really, hear that. I don't know if I should share this. I will share it. I had this family come to the clinic today, first time.
No identifying information.
But also, I don't have a license to lose. But just in case y'all forgot. Anyway. So this family comes in, first time. I give them a tour, right? And the patient or possible client, I'm like showing her around and she's like, can I talk to you privately? I'm like, oh my God. So we try to talk privately, doesn't work. Parents come in and mom just starts crying because she saw your interview with Matt. I don't know which interview she's talking about, but she was like sobbing and she was like, I don't know why I'm like crying so much. It's so inspirational what you guys are doing, et cetera, et cetera. And I really think that she probably knows that her kiddo is LGBTQIA and she's just trying to find ways to accept it. So that was just very moving. So I hope that parents like her can see it. Because I also think that sometimes it can be difficult for a parent to be accepting because now they carry the shame of what other people are going to think about me as a parent, when in reality, she don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Drown out all the noise, right? And just be able to listen to your kid.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you guys would like to add before I close this episode?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Jasper, where can they find us? Do you know?
Spill_the Tea Cafe.
Yes.
Period on Instagram.
Good job,
We're also
Jasper.
located in Kaka'ako, in case you wonder. 1034 Queen Street, second level. If you're interested in groups, if you want to join Jasper's group, just send an email to info@spilltheteacafe.org, or just go into our Instagram, shoot us a DM, and we're gonna get you hooked. Just remember, Saturday, 1 p.m., Transcend group with none other than Mr. Jasper.
Yeah.
You all be there and be square. Thank you, Jasper. We love you.
I love you so
It's
much,
truly
Jasper.
an honor. Thank you. Ciao, friends. Bye.
Bye.